Hi everyone, Colleen with Designs of Value Art School, and today we're going to paint this cute little bluebird, and we're going to put a background in. We're going to use watercolor pencils, so you can see how I do that. And we're going to, this is the photograph that we're going to take our design from. This is the tracing that I made that we're going to put on our watercolor paper. And then these are the colors that we're going to use. I made the background with the Prisma watercolors. This one is the red, let's see what it's called here, Rouge Carmine. So that darkened the blue for us to make a darker background. And then this one is Blue French. So those are the two colors that I've used out of the Prisma Premier 12 count watercolor. And then we do also have the Derwent watercolors, so if we need to, we can tap into those and use those as we go. And then I'm using Arches watercolor 100% cotton paper. And it is 140 pound weight. It's a block, and I really like the block, especially if you're just starting out. You don't have to tape it down, you don't have to staple it to a board, you don't have to do any of those things. It just finishes it off really nice. Now, I've already put my tracing on the paper. So first thing we're going to do is our background. And I'm going to use my sterling silver background. It's a medium brush, and this is going to apply the water for me. I hopefully have enough paint there to get us through at least half of it. I always like to break my backgrounds down. I'm going to turn this so it's easier for me to get at, so it's not all one, trying to get it painted in one go. It's just not going to work most of the time, even on a smaller surface like this. Now this surface is 6 inches by 11.8 inches, or 5.9 by 11.8. So it's a smaller watercolor paper. For this design, it actually tends to work perfectly for a smaller design like this. Now, again, this is the first time I'm adding water to this paper, so I'm going to put it down, and then I'm going to let it set for a minute, and then we'll add more. And because of that, I am going to add the water all the way across the entire background, because I have to put 2 coats of water down anyway. So I might as well get the first one down at the same time before I start to paint. I like these brushes. They seem to hold a lot of water, especially, and I use them for background strictly. I don't paint with them at all, but I really like the way they hold the water and apply the water to the painting. And if you follow me at all, you will know I consider that to be just as important, adding the water, as painting. Because if you don't add the water correctly or get it completely covered where you need it to be, you're not going to have a nice painting. And I'm just going to go ahead and add the second layer right away. I'm going to just do it right up to here. You always want to add water a little bit further than what you want to go, because you want it to soften in. And then when you go to finish the other side of the background, you can just pick that up right at that spot. Alright, so I've got my larger brush here. I'm using a number 8 round. And I'm going to just lay this in. I want it to be the darkest towards the outside edge, so I'm going to lay the paint in there first and let it do its thing. This is almost a perfect match in color to that picture, so I was really surprised I was able to get that. And all you need to do is play around with your colors and see what you've got in. It's a little bit more limited in the watercolor pencils because you don't have a lot of choices. I think I've got 36 and 12, and some of those are duplicates of some of the colors. So now I do want to go right up to the edge of the little board that he's sitting on, so I'm going to just pull that around. Now this is his white that I'm going around now, is his white and yellow feathers that he's got here. So I'm just going to go around that right away. And I'm going to stop right about there. So now I can just kind of put the paint in and away we go. I don't have to worry about those edges, they're already in. Adding a little bit more water to my paint so it moves a little bit better. And if it's a little darker around the bird, not a big one. That's a good, I like that effect. So now you always want to go back and make sure you've got it as dark as you want on the corners. So like I said, that's going to be the darkest area, the edge of the paper. Now I did just paint a Carolina Wren, which is kind of a burnt sienna color bird, and I'm going to frame these two together. Use a mat board and glue them down to the mat board so that they're on the same frame in the same mounting. It'll be really cute. These colors will go great together. Adding in my second glaze for the rest of this area. And I'm going to have to make a little bit more color here. That's okay. And I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm going to just move the painting out of the way. I want you to see I've got my pencil over my palette. And I'm just pulling color right off of there, off of that pencil. Got a lot of moisture in my brush. Okay, and it's pretty light. I don't want to go that light, so set that pencil aside, pick up some more moisture in my brush, and add in the red. See how it darkens that color right away? Really almost gives it a purple cast, which is exactly what we're looking for. So that's how I create a larger puddle. There we go. Set both those pencils aside. I'm going to add just a little bit more water to this since I did that while it was drying. Just to make sure it stays wet as we apply this. And again, I want to start where I want it to be the darkest. Make sure you can see me while I do this. There we go. So I'm adding the darkest value to the corner. Now I do want to bring this out as quickly as possible so it doesn't dry. I want it to blend together. Now if you have a little bit of a different color from one side to the other, not a big one. Skies don't stay the same color. I'm just going to bring this down and around where I need it. And then as I add the paint, I don't have to worry about going over the bird. There we go. Just picking up more color as I go. And we might have to do this again to get it as dark as we want it. Although I like the idea of it being soft in the background. And I'm just making sure before I leave it and dry it that it's the way I want it, has the color where I want it. Now we're going to put some snow on here later, so that's going to soften the effect in the background as well. There we go. Darken this area just a little bit more so it somewhat matches the other side. Just keep dropping your paint in where you want it to be darker. And it's still wet enough that it's going to blend in to the other values. So there we go. I'm going to dry this real quick, and then we'll move on to the branch that he's sitting on. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, everything's dry and cool to the touch. Now, there's a couple more things I want to do here to the background. I guess one more thing in a couple different areas. Up in here, there's some red. Over in here, there's some red. And over in here, there's some red. So all I did was make up some color with the red color we had used originally. And I'm just going to add some water in those areas that I want to add the red to. And get that blended in. Set my red color aside, and I'm going to take my bigger brush again, pick up my color that I made, and it's just the red pencil, it's all it is. I'm just going to drop this in a couple spaces where I have added the water. And you want to go short of where the water ends because you want it to soften in. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just, wherever I put the water, I'm just putting in a drop of this. I am going to take this right up to his white feathers there. There we go. And then this side comes down quite a way, so we're going to add that color in. See how it's just a gentle red tone to it. It's all it's doing. But that's going to make the background look so much softer. There we go. I think we're good. Add a little bit more over here. I'll come down a little ways over here. There we are. Okay, I'm going to dry that one more time and then we'll be back and we're going to do our branch. Okay, we're back. I got everything nice and dry. Now we're going to mix up some color for our branch. I do see some yellow in here, so I picked out they had some of the strangest names, but it looks more like a golden color, which will match this perfectly. So we're going to have some of that in there. Some of these areas right through the center are the lightest, so we'll do that. But then around the edges, we're going to use the same red that we were using before. We're going to add in a darker red and then a brown. So those are the colors that we're going to use there. And again, if you have any other watercolor pencil kit, go ahead and use those. I'm going to use this one separate, so I'm going to keep it up there. Okay. See the painting here a little bit better. So the first thing we're going to do is add water, and we're going to do just a little bit at a time here. This is just our first coat, and then we'll have all the detail and everything that we need. Adding the water in all the way across. Keeping in mind where those feathers are so we don't go over his white feathers. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to let that set for a minute, and while I do, I'm going to get some of the color ready here. Then we got to add in the second layer. And I just want you to be able to see me do this. I don't want the painting to get wet, so I'm going to just move that out of the way for a moment. There we go. Because this can splash, so you can see as it's doing it already as I just put the water over the pencil. So you want to keep that in mind. You always want to do it away from your painting. So I've got some red in there, some of the new red, and let's add in some of the old red. A bit brighter. And you don't have to make a lot of this, because if you would do it as you go, then you don't have the consistency of the wood being the same all the way across, and that's not what you want. You want it to be different, because wood is not the same. Okay, it's getting darker. That's what we want. Brown is toning down that red quite a bit, which is good. Grab some more water. There we go, it's getting darker. Now I think we're going to add a little bit of orange to this as well, and that'll get us over to the burnt sienna type color, which is what I'm looking for. Pick that up here. There we go. And we'll do this on one corner, so we've got some different values to grab when we need them. Now it's going towards like a burnt umber, which is good. And we'll leave that one darker, reddish color. Now I'm going to add in one more color, so we'll have more values to choose from here. Add this over here. We're not really using these like a pencil yet, but when we get to the end and we want to do some detail, you'll see me. Here, it's giving us a nice golden color here. That's good. So we got 3 values there to choose from to do this first layer with, so we're good. Let's set all my pencils aside here. Oh, sure. We're going to roll right off the edge of the paper. Table, I should say. Okay, now I'm going to bring the painting back and I'm going to re-wet that. I like the way that red added to that background. That worked out well. So I'm just re-wetting it for the second time. Make sure it's got enough moisture in there to do what we need to do. I'm going to take it a little bit further than I need it. Since this is our lightest value, we're going to start with the lighter value here where we want it. Just adding in color. And we're going to just kind of mix this color up. Like I said, your wood doesn't stay the same color. And underneath, he's a little bit darker. So we'll go into the red tones. Kind of mix that in between the lighter value. No rhyme or reason here. It's just how you want your wood to look. I'm going to the third value here just so we get some different values. Even on a piece of wood like this, you need different values to create form. If you don't have different values, your wood is going to look flat. So you need to make sure, even on this first layer, that you have a bunch of different values ready to go. For that wood. Okay, now I'm going to add some more water on this other edge. I'm going to just move it around here a little bit and move my palette over so you can see me do this. There we go. Okay, so I got my water on there for the second layer. Start with the light value. I am going to add just a little bit more of the yellow in there. It's kind of gotten darker as I... It's blue. There we go. And you need to adjust as you go. I lost some of my yellow, so I'm just adding a little bit more yellow back in. So I got some lighter values like that in there. Now this side's not necessarily as light as the other side was, but that's okay. We still need that value in there. Okay, so I'm going to go to the darker red now. Don't forget, leave his feathers. We're going to put those in. Now as you lay this in, board or wood is going like this, so you definitely want to go in that direction. We will get, like I said, some of the details in there with our pencils and liner brush. And clean my brush out here. Here, I think we're pretty good. Kind of filling in some of the whiter spots. There we go. Now I'm going to dry that, and then we'll come back and we'll probably start doing some detail on the wood right away and get that squared away. So I'll be right back with you.